that you have presented us for your theme this afternoon.
All right.
Now, on last night we had 7 minutes to do what we had to do. That goes to show you right there. You don't need a whole lot of time.
Right.
You don't need a whole lot of time. It might take something, but you don't need a whole lot.
Yeah.
You don't need a whole lot. But I'll just put a little bit. I want to lift up this text, Hebrews, the 12th chapter, verses 1 and 2.
Right.
And I want to read it from the New International Version because the beginning of verse 2 is where we're going to rest our topic for this afternoon. Hebrews, the 12th chapter, verses 1 through 2. Thank you for standing in reverence and respect to the Word of God. Here it is, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us.
Yes.
Fixing our eyes on Jesus,
Yes.
the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God.
Yeah.
Right there at the beginning of verse 2, fixing our eyes on Jesus.
Yeah.
I want to talk this afternoon about focusing on the finisher. Focusing on the finisher.
Yeah.
You ought to keep your eyes fixed on Jesus because he's a finisher. And so we ought to look to him to help us run this race. We've got to learn to place our focus on the finisher. And it is a good thing to maintain your focus. Good thing to maintain your focus. Hank Aaron, prolific baseball player. Hank Aaron, he's in the record books.
Yes.
Hank Aaron, a home run hitter. Hank Aaron.
Hank.
It is said that there was a game where Hank Aaron was at the plate. And there was a fella who was there as the catcher. And Hank Aaron was up to bat, and the catcher's responsibility is not only to send signals to the pitcher.
Listen.
All right, to throw the right pitch. But his job is also to heckle and distract and mess with the fellow that's up to bat.
Right.
So I believe it was Mickey Mantle who was there as the catcher. Hank Aaron was at the plate as the batter. And so he was messing with Hank. Hank, you can't hit our pitcher. Hank, you can't hit his ball. Hank, your mama couldn't even hit his ball. He was really trying to get into Hank Aaron's head. And so he tried to get Hank, but he said, now Hank, look at your back. You got your back turned the wrong way. Because a batter understands that the insignia, the stuff that's written on the back, it needs to be turned a certain way. Or else you might end up breaking your back. Or the batter reverberate back into your hand. So you got to know how to have your back turned. But Mickey was trying to confuse him. He was trying to get in his head, and he said, you need to take a look at your back. Hank Aaron didn't pay him no mind.
That's it.
Threw that pitch. And Hank Aaron knocked it over the center field wall. Home run. Hank Aaron takes off running around first and made it around second, and come on around third and made it on in the home.
Yeah.
So Hank, after coming through and making it in the home, he's on his way back to the dugout. He turned around and looked at Mickey and he said, Mickey, I didn't come here to read. Sometimes you got to remember what you came here for. You got to remember to keep your focus, missionaries, on what you're here for. And so if we can focus our attention on the finisher, then we'll make our race. You'll make your race. You'll make your race. See, I don't know about you. We didn't grow up with televisions in our house. Not in the kitchen. No, not in the kitchen. Now you may have that nowadays, but those who have a television in the kitchen, that's usually a small screen. Right. All right. Because when you're working in the kitchen, you just want to glance at the television while you do what you're doing. While you're washing dishes, you just want to glance at what's on the television. While you're preparing a meal, you just want to glance at what's on the television. But now when you really want to sit down and focus on watching some television, you go sit down in your room where you have a big screen. Got your big screen television, you have your big lounge, easy chair, and so you sit down in the chair and you focus your attention on the television. Don't want nobody messing with you while you're watching your show. Don't come bother me while I'm watching the game. I'm trying to focus my attention on what's on the television. But you're not trying to do that while you're in the kitchen. No. See, that's how folk are with God, though. Listen. They don't want to glance at God like the small screen. They don't want to put their focus on Him like the big screen. But if we're going to be missionaries trying to run this race, you can't be glancing at God while you're on this race. You've got to learn to put your focus and your attention on Him. Focusing on the finish. So what Paul is doing here, some say Paul is the writer of Hebrews. I like to give him credit for it. Others just say the writer of Hebrews. What he's saying here is that life is like a track meet. Life is like a track meet. It is filled with various types of races. That our track meets are filled with various types of races. You have your dashes. Back in the day it was a 100-yard dash. I think now they call them sprints. But you have your sprint. Those are the quick races. Those are short distance kind of races. You have your 100 meter and you have your 200 meter and even you throw in your 400 meter. Those are your sprints. That won't take too long. That's a quick run. That's a quick race. And even in life, there are some seasons where it won't last too long. That's a quick run. That's a quick season. So you have your sprints. But in a track meet you also have the hurdles. You also have the hurdles. And you have to run hurdles with not just speed, but you have to run hurdles with skill and accuracy. You have to time your steps so that when you get to the hurdle, you need to take the hurdle and not lose any speed, not lose any ground. But that's how it is in life. We got to learn to take some hurdles. There's going to be some stuff thrown at us. Some stuff that pops up in our way. But you got to learn to pace yourself. Keep on running. And when you see the hurdle, time it to where you clear the hurdle. This life is like a track meet. Sprints and hurdles. And you even have, and this is the fun one, relay. Relay, the Texas relay. Y'all know we show up and we show out at the Texas relay. But the relay races, those are based on speed, and those also are based on skill, because You gotta know how to pass the baton.
Yeah.
Gotta know how to pass, because I don't care how fast you are. If you don't get across the finish line with your baton, you can't win the race. So you gotta learn how to hand stuff off. And then when they hand it off, you gotta know how to do your leg of the race. Because as a team, everybody's depending on each other to do their leg of the race. Don't mess up the handoff. And sometimes I wonder if in our lives we're messing up the handoff. We ain't passing on what we got to our children. We're messing up the handoff. We're dropping the baton. I was over there in the corner. I was watching that little baby standing up there in that second row. There he is, green shirt on. Watch this. Mama, you mama? Grandma. Grandma standing up praising. What was that little rascal doing? Then he'll drop down and bounce off the beach and come back up. I was watching you, man. And he was with the music and he was getting his praise on. Grandma was making sure she don't drop the baton. But we gotta learn to pass on some stuff. Right now they get it by watching. Later on they'll get it by experience. Somebody gotta show it. Life is like a track meet. Filled with all kinds of races. And Paul is saying to us, he says, you ought to run this race. And you have examples. Because he says right there in the first verse, he said, we've got a cloud of witnesses. You've got some that have already run before you.
That's right.
He said, all you've got to do back in the 11th chapter is take a look at the list of all those who were faithful runners in this track meet of life. And it was Dr. John Maxwell who wrote a book, Running with Giants.
Come on.
He said, what if God allowed you to run one lap with one of these giants in the faith? Wonder what we would learn if God would allow us to run a lap with one of the giants in the faith. That if we got a chance to run with Noah, what lesson would we learn from Noah? Could it be that one person can make a difference? All it takes is one person to make a difference. That even if you got to stand alone, you stand by yourself, realizing and understanding that you're standing with Jesus. So you stand. Even though everybody else is talking about you. You stand. Even though they're laughing at you. I bet when that water started falling, now everybody's trying to get on the boat. One person can make a difference. What if he allowed us to run a lap with Joseph? Come on. Got a chance to run with Joseph. What would we learn from him? Maybe he would tell us, don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on... Joseph was a dreamer. Joseph was a dreamer. And even though he went through everything he had to endure, he did not give up on his dream. He was dreaming while he was in jail. But he didn't give up on his dream. And when you see him at the latter end of his life, standing before his brothers, number 2 in the line of Pharaoh's leaders, he said, what you meant for evil, God done turned it. You're like little Michael Jackson on that. God done turned it around for your good. But you can't get to the good if you give up on your dream. What if he allowed us to run a lap with that whore? dealing with some giants. So he says to us, if you wanna be involved in mission work, you gotta focus on the finisher. He says, don't be incumbent, don't be entangled, but you need to endure. He said, don't be encumbered by stuff that drags and weighs you down. You got to get rid of some stuff. He said, you got to take them out. He said, throw off some stuff. You can't run the race when you got so much on you. When you look at those running in track meets nowadays, they barely got anything on. And if they got it on, it fits so tight. I mean, golly. But they throwing it off. You're not letting anything slow you down in your race. That hatred ain't gonna get you nowhere. You gotta throw it off. That hot temper won't make it. You gotta throw it off. Some stuff has got to be thrown off. He said, and don't you get entangled in sin. He said, there's some stuff, distractions, cares of the world, that kind of stuff weighs you down. But there's some sin. He said, don't get entangled, don't get ensnared, don't get captured, don't get trapped. The enemy's setting some traps up. He set some traps because he knows your push points. He knows what you like, and he has a way of disguising it. It might look like a blessing. It might look all right. And then once you get your foot in it, he snaps the trap. He said, you gotta watch that stuff, that sin, that thing which separates us and disrupts our relationship with God. He said, don't get entangled in that stuff. He said, but run with endurance. Run with endurance. So since we are running the race, I think we need to focus on the finisher. Real quick here, we're just going to walk through the text. If I'm going to focus on the finisher, if I'm going to fix my eyes on Jesus, the reason I'm going to do that is that I've got to look at him as my resource. He is, according to the text, the pioneer and perfecter of my faith. That is my belief in him. He is the author and the finisher of our faith. That means he is the Alpha and the Omega of our faith. He is the beginning and the end of our faith. The reason why you got to know that is because there are folks that we're trying to please. But really they don't matter. Because they're not the author and the finisher of our faith. You're trying to keep happy, but they're not the author and the finisher of God. He was there in the beginning. He knows your start and he knows your end. He that has begun a good work in you, he is faithful to complete what he has started. So I'm going to focus on the finisher because he has every resource that I need. So therefore, I'm no longer captive to what folk think.
My God. That's good. My God.
I confess that early on in this ministry, I wanted to please everybody. Everybody. Don't want nobody to be mad. But the reality of this position is that somebody is going to be upset. And the thing is, if I'm always running to try to please this one and turning around and trying to please that one, then I'm going to mess up trying to please this one. It took me a minute, but I had to realize that he is the author and the finisher. He is the perfecter of my faith. So missionaries, when they upset with you, you can't get with what you have going on. It's all right, understand that he is the author and the finisher of you do want to be decent and in order. You do want to follow leadership bishop and do the right thing. But when it comes down to something that's just petty stuff.
All right.
Come on.
Yeah.
They say wear pearl white, you wear off white. Now they all upset with you.
Yeah.
They're not the author and finisher of your faith. They asked you to bring chicken wings. Your check said you can bring a vegetable tray. And they got upset with you. They're not the author and finisher of your faith. I'm focused on the finisher. So he says, then I fix my eyes on Jesus. I focus on the finisher because I understand where my resource is. He's the pioneer and the perfecter of my faith. But then the other thing I understand is that the reason I do it is for the joy. It's right there in the text. He said, for the joy that is set before. The reason is for the joy. He said, for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. The joy that was set before Jesus. Now understand, it was not the joy of the cross. No, it wasn't the joy of the cross. It was the joy that was set before him. He said, what I really want to do is please my daddy. Come on. So it's the joy of serving. That's the reason why I'm focusing on my finisher. Because I find joy in serving. All Jesus wanted to do was serve the purposes of his daddy. And so because he knew he was going to the cross, he realized that even though it was going to be tough, but I'm serving the purposes of my daddy. So I don't mind being a servant. As long as my daddy is pleased. I don't mind suffering a little bit. As long as my daddy is pleased. He was both human and he was both God. He said, Daddy, if you will, if there's somewhere within your purpose that you can allow this cup to pass from me. That's the human side. But then the God side says, but not my will, but your will. I just want to be a servant. Which means I've got to focus on my finisher. For the joy of serving, but not only the joy of serving, but the joy of sacrifice. Jesus understood that I'm going to Calvary and I've got to sacrifice my life. In other words, I've got to lay my life down in order for others to be lifted up. Now we've got to find some joy in laying our lives down so that others could be lifted up. I mean, the devil got us twisted. Because we think that all the joy and all the appreciation is when folk patting us on the back. And when they're talking about us and when they're lifting up our name and when they're hoorahing us. But no, Jesus said, it's when I sacrifice. That's when I find joy. That's when I find, when I give up myself, that's when I find joy. So if I'm focusing on my finisher, I realize that my resource is because he's the pioneer and the perfecter of my faith. I realize that the reason I'm doing it is because of the joy that is set before me. The joy of serving, the joy of sacrifice, even the joy of success. Because I know that what I'm doing is for the kingdom.
All right.
And so he said, I'm doing it, I'm focusing on my finisher because of what will happen. And so right here, he says now, the resource, he's the pioneer and perfecter of my faith. The reason I focus on my finisher is because of the joy. The joy that I see, the joy that I'm receiving. He said, but lastly, the reason I focus on my finisher because of the reward. Right there in the text he said, and he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God.
Right there.
When we focus on the finisher, I guarantee you that there is a reward. He said, I will reward those who will diligently seek after me. That is, you keep your focus on Jesus. He said, I've got something for those who keep their eye on me. He says, I'm focusing on my finisher because I like the reward. Jesus is sitting at the right hand of the Father. Now I know that seat ain't reserved for me, but I got a place somewhere up in glory. And I'm not particular about where. You can sit at the front seat if you want to, but just as long as there's somewhere around this throne of God, that's where I want to be. I just want to be in the number. I don't have to be in the 144,000. I just want to be in the number. I don't have to be counted amongst the 24 elders. I just want to be in the number. I just want to see my reward. Focusing on the finisher.
All right.
Yeah. Keep my eye on the prize.
Yes, sir.
Because in order to run your race, you're heading for the finish line. And every now and then, there's going to be some things that cause you to get out of your lane. Yeah, but you got to keep your focus on the finish line. Yeah. Because it is there at the finish that we hear him say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done. You have focused on the finisher. You have been faithful over a few things. So now I'm going to make you ruler over many things. But you don't get there unless we focus on the finisher. Anybody willing to run your race today? Anybody willing to run for Jesus today? Keep running for him with a focus on the finisher. You'll make it to the promised land. We'll have trouble. We'll have trial. But if we focus on the finisher, we'll make it to the finish line. We got ups and we'll have downs. But if we focus on the finisher, we'll make it to the promised land. Got good days, got bad days. But if I focus on the finisher, we're gonna make it to the promised land. I'm so glad. So glad that we got a reward in heaven for those who keep their focus on the finisher. I don't have to be treated like a horse. I don't need blinders.